Okay, so what we've got here is the crossover questions. So these are the questions that are half the end of the foundation paper and the beginning of the higher paper. So for the very first one, you don't need your calculator, but they are both the papers we're going to go through are calculator papers. So you've got 14n, and that sign means bigger than 11n plus 6. So step one, if it was an equal sign, you want all the n's on one side. So you're going to take away 11n from both sides. So therefore you've got, on this side, you're going to get 3n. You copy that sign down and 6. So now we've got 3 times something is 6. That something is 2. So n is greater than 2. And in the exam, don't forget to go write your answer on the lines. You just make the examiner's life easier, and then they like you more. And I know when I mark, you're marking hundreds of papers, and it's just so much nicer to be able to just tick through. All right, next one, on the number line. So first of all, there's a difference, if we notice, between, I've got a pointing finger somewhere for this purpose, that symbol and that symbol. So we've got an extra line here. So this is equal to as well. So we're saying x plus 3 is greater than minus 2, and x plus 3 is less than or equal to 4. So what we're going to do first is make it just x. So there's a plus 3 here, and it's like having 2 equal signs on either side. So we're going to minus the 3 from both sides. So I'm going to take away 3 this side. Obviously, we're taking 3 away from everywhere. When we take it away from the middle, we're just left with x. On this side, we're going to get minus 5, and this side, we're going to get 1. So minus 2 minus another 3, you've even got a number line here to help you, takes you to minus 5. This has a greater than sign. This has a less than or equal to. Wherever you see the equal to, you colour in a circle. So I've got a 1. I'm going to colour in the circle, and then I've got minus 5, and here I'm just going to draw a circle, and I'm going to join them up with a line. And it doesn't need to be beautiful and neat, unless you've got a really annoying teacher who's going to knock you marks, but in the exam it doesn't need to be beautiful and neat. So we've got a number line like that. Okay. The next question, we've got a graph of y equals 2x minus 3, and we want to do it from minus 2 to 4. Now, we know it's going to be a straight line because it's got 1x. It's not squared, it's not cubed. And we're going to use our calculator to do this. I'm trying to, oh, I've got some weird reflection. So you're going to press, switch it on. You're going to go to mode, and then you're going to go to table. Yes, this is foundation. It's the end of foundation and the beginning of higher. So you get this fx come up on your calculator. And then you're going to find the x button, which in this case, which on this calculator is above the bracket sign. So fx, and this is 2 alpha x to give me that x minus 3. So I plug that into the calculator. It comes up with a gx, just choose any random number. I'm going to choose 2, we don't need that. And we're going to start at minus 2 and go to 4. So our start is minus 2, our end is 4, and we're going in steps of 1. And this, you can ignore the gx, that's where we put just 2 in everywhere. This gives you all the values. So if you were to draw that table, this tells you minus 2, if this is your x, then your y is minus 7, minus 1, it's minus 5, 0, it's minus 3. If I scroll down, 1 is 1, and we wanted to go to 4, so 1 is minus 1, 2 is 1, 3 is 3, and 4 is 5. However, if it just wants a straight line, you don't even need all these points. You need your first point and you need your last point. because when you join it up on a straight line, that's going to give you everything you need. So we're going to go from -2, -7, which is this point down here, and we're going to go to 4 and 5, which is here. And here you really should have a ruler. If I can find one of my desks. So you will join your 2 points up with a ruler, and you now have your straight line. Okay? So you've got y equals 2x minus 3, and that's between -2 and 4. Right. Question 3. We've got Hannah is planning a day trip. She asks a sample of 30. Sorry, I'll just put these so you can see them. I think that's probably there you go. So Hannah is planning a day trip for 195 students. She asks a sample of 30 students where they want to go. Each student chooses one place. We get a table. And then the question says, how many do you think want to go to the theme park? Now this is super easy. All you're going to do is you're going to use your calculator, right? And in your calculator, to get rid of any modes, you can just go back to menu and 1. You're going to choose your ratio button. So whenever you see something like this, so you've got a whole group of things, they're only asking a few of them to get an idea, you can use your ratio button and you'll go straight to the answer. So we've got a question like this. We're going to choose menu. We're going to go across to 4, which is ratio. We know that 195 students out of 195, we want to know how many students go, but we know 30 out of 30, 10 students chose a theme park. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose number 2. We're going to write in what we know. We know that 30 is equivalent to 10 here. And we want to know for 195 what the x is. So we type in 195, we hit equals, and we get the answer of 65. Now, this is it. That's your if you have to write working, so if you wrote your working would just need to be, to get your marks, is what did we write in here? We wrote 30 and 10. So you'd write 30 double dot 10, exactly as the question, as you wrote it here. And you'd write equals 195 dot dot 65, which is your answer, which is then what you write on these lines here. So that's a very quick way to do your ratios. Now it says, what's your assumptions that you've made? So we've assumed that whatever the results were for the 30 students is the same for the 195 for everybody. So your assumption is that the sample is representative. You know, otherwise the estimate would be wrong. So if Hannah, for example, only asked her friends, that wouldn't necessarily be representative of the whole class or the whole school. Okay, so we've now got a container. So it's in the shape of a cuboid, and the container is 2/3 full of water. A cup holds 275 milliliters of water. So 1 centimeter cubed is the same as a milliliter. We want the number of cups that can fill completely. So step 1, we're going to find the volume. So how do we find a volume of the shape? So when we've got a length, really easy, it's just one line. And you want it to find if it's longer, you add them up. An area, you times 2 numbers together, and a volume, you times 3. So whenever they give you 3 numbers, you're probably going to need to multiply them. So even if you're not 100% sure what to do, get some marks and type the numbers in. So in your calculator, you're going to do your volume, which is 30 times 6 times 19. Okay, you have your calculator, you're just going to put that in. And when I type it in, I get 3420. Then I'm told it's 2/3 full. Now don't worry, it's a fraction. Fractions I know are annoying, but it's not a non-calculator paper. So we can use our fraction button on the calculator. And whenever you see the word off, that means times. So 2/3 of it is full. We're timesing, we're putting 2/3 into our calculator. So we're pressing our fraction button, 2/3 times by whatever our answer was, which was 2420, hit the equal sign, and now we have the amount of water inside this cuboid. So it's 2280. We know that 1 cup holds 275. So we're going to take that 2280 and divide it by 275. It's already in my calculator. I don't need to delete and retype. I just hit the divide button, which is also what the fraction means, and put 275, hit equals. Now I've got it in this form. So your calculator will always give it to you as a fraction. To get out of it being a fraction and give you a decimal, you press this. So this is how you convert from fraction to decimal, this SD button. So I get 8.29 and so on. So that tells me that I can't quite get 9 cups full, but I can get 8 and a bit, so therefore it must be 8 cups. And make sure you write that. You know, you're writing it on those dots, because you do all the work and you lose that last mark, and it's really frustrating to see in an exam when someone gets to the 8.29 and then doesn't write 8 down. So you can't give them that last mark. Okay. Right, so now we've got a right angle triangle. I see a right angle triangle, my brain does two things. It either thinks SOHCAHTOA or Pythagoras. So I'm going to write both those things down. So I'm going to write SOHCAHTOA. Okay. Now I know opposite my right angle is always my hypotenuse. So that's nice and easy. I want to find AB. This one is across, it's opposite to my angle. So it's O. I don't fuss about anything else. I know that I know the hypotenuse and I know the O. So I look at these and I say, which one has O and H in it? It's the S. So I've got sine. Now sine doesn't mean anything on its own. It needs the angle after it. So sine 38 equals the opposite, which I'm trying to find. So that's my AB, divided by my hypotenuse, which is 16. So something divided by 16 is sine 38. To find my something, I'm going to have to multiply it by sine 38. Right, so don't type sine 38 into your calculator first. Figure out your whole calculation and then type it in. So then we're going to do 16 times sine 38, there's a bracket, equals, and we get 9.8505. Now always check if it's asked you to do it correct at anything. They've told me 2 decimal places. So after the decimal place, I'm counting 1, 2. So I want the 8 and the 5. I double check that the number after it is not 5 or bigger. It's not, so I don't need to change anything. And my answer is just 9.85. Okay. 25. In the last few years, this is the part of the new specification, they've always asked one of these questions, which is about error intervals. And it is a gift question. It's a couple of marks. and it's the easiest thing. So the answer on her calculator display began 8.3. Okay, so you always write the number that her calculator began and just put it here. Whatever it is, that's always the number on your left. Then you add 1 to the final bit, and that goes to your number on the right, and that's your error interval. Because what they're saying is the number could have been 8.35, where you would have rounded it to 8.4. Okay, so hope that makes sense. Okay, another ratio question, which looks horrible, but actually, for 4 marks, you just need to use your calculator. All right, so if I stick that there. So we've got £360 is shared between Abby, Ben, Chloe and Dinesh, I think that's how you say it. Who knows? The ratio of the amount Abby gets to Ben is 2 to 7. So we know that 360 is shared with all of them. Chloe and Dinesh get 1.5 times the amount Abby gets. Work out the amount of money that Ben gets. So if we were going to write their ratio all the way out, we've got Abby, Ben, Chloe, Dinesh. We've got 2 to 7. We know that Chloe and Dinesh get 1.5 times more than Abby. Right. The amount of Abby, sorry. So we're going to do 2 times 1.5 or 1.5. And we get 3. So we know this must be 3 and 3. Right, we know the total amount is 360. So let's add up all of these. 2 plus 7 plus 3 plus 3. So 2 plus 7 plus 3 plus 3, which gives you 15. So we know 360 is equivalent to 15. So this is what we're going to type in our calculator. We want to know what Ben's is, which is the 7, right? And what we want to know is how much his is. So we're going to say, how much does he get? And it's 7. We grab our calculator, we go to the ratio mode, which is mode 4. We choose 1, because that's how we've set it up. And we plug the numbers in. So we've got 360 and 15. And then we've got x and 7. We hit equals and we get our answers 168. So 168. So x equals £168, which I then put at the bottom. Okay, so again, for a calculator paper, the next couple of questions are gift questions because your calculator will just do it for you. So if you have a look here, you're writing things in standard form, right? All you're going to do is you're going to type it in. So let's get rid of this by going to menu 1. We're going to type in the number they've given us, 0.00562, and you hit the equal sign, right? Remember, it gives it to you as a fraction, and then you press this SD button, and you've got it in standard form. I don't know whether you can see that. So it gives you 5.62 times 10 to the minus 3. So again, super easy questions because you can use your calculator. Now we've got to write something as an ordinary number. Again, it's a calculator paper, use your calculator. We will do how to do it in a non-calculator at another time, but this was from a calculator paper. So we've got 1.52 times 10, and then you use this power button to the power of 3, hit the equal sign, and it gives it to you as an ordinary number. So 1452. Right, so these questions were the first 8 questions of a higher paper and the last 8 questions of a foundation paper. Okay, so it gives you an idea of the level of the questions. Right, so now this is paper 3, and it's the same thing. We're going to be looking at the first, I don't know how many questions I've got here, it's the first 6 questions of a higher paper, which are the last 6 of the foundation. So the first question is about a Venn diagram. Let's look at some of the notation. This epsilon sign, or this weird E sort of sign, is your entire world. So at the end, your whole thing should have every single one of these numbers. So you should end up with something that has all of these numbers in. This is what A should have. So this bubble should have those numbers. And this bubble should have those numbers there, 2, 6, and 9. So the first step you're going to do is you're always going to first look at and say, what should the middle bit be? So what numbers do they share? So if we have a look, they share 6 and 9. So I'm going to write 6 and 9 in the middle. So I've dealt with these. I'm going to cross them out so I don't doubly write them down anywhere. So that tells me what's left in A, so what should be in the rest of A, is 1, 5, and 8. And what should be in the rest of B is 2. So 1, 5, 8. So 1, 5, 8, I've dealt with 2. And now I've still got some numbers left. And remember, this box is my entire world. So my entire world has to be all of these numbers. So I'm missing 3, 4, and 7. And that would be your Venn diagram. So now it's telling me a number is chosen at random from the universal set. Find the probability that the number is in the set A and B. The minute you see the word probability, your brain is going to go fraction. So you're going to just write a fraction line. Okay. And we're talking about the number. So we count. How many? This weird sign here means and. So the bit in the middle, so the intersection. Think of it as it's like this, and if I put a line through it, it becomes an A. So therefore it's and. How many numbers have I got in the middle? I've got 1, 2. 2 goes on the top. How many numbers was in my entire universe? There were 9 numbers, so it's 2/9. So my fraction is 2/9. Okay. Next question. Right, so this is a compound interest question. So this is where the percentage button on your calculator becomes really useful. It is very unlikely that you will ever get something like this on a non-calculator paper, and it's also very easy to do on your calculator paper. So we have Katie invests 200,000. Okay. And she pays compound interest of 1.5. So that means every year in her bank account, she has her original amount, she's never going to lose it, and 1.5% more. So what you're going to do is you're going to do 100 plus my 1.5. So it's going to be that much, and this is as a percentage. So can you see you've got a percent sign above your answer button. So above your answer button, if you do shift and answer, you get a percent sign. Right? And you're going to hit equals. So when I do that, I've done that right? Yep. 2,200, okay, I didn't type in my calculator, right? Sorry, let's do that again. So we're going to do 200,000 times 100 plus 1.5, shift percent, and all of that is to the power of 4 years. And actually, let's put it all in one go, and we get a value there. So what I've typed in is the original 200,000, and I've times it by 100 plus the extra 1.5, so the original amount percent to the power of 4. The power button is this button here, where you've got like an X and a square. And to that number, I get 212272.71, blah, blah, blah. Okay. What does this number tell me? Now, it's not what the question's asking. The question only wants the interest, so only the extra bit. Normally, that's what the question would ask. You'd put that down as the answer. But we now have to minus the original amount, but you don't take it out your calculator. You just hit minus 200,000. Let me check there's enough zeros and you don't do what I did before. Perfect. And you've got your answer. It's money. We're dealing with money, so we do pounds and pence. So we're going to get 12272.71. So 12,272 and 71 pence. Okay, question 3. So we've got information about the heights of 80 plants. Okay. We want to find out the interval that has the median. Median, remember, you've got a mode, which is the most, the mean, which is the mean one to calculate. You've got to actually think about it. And median, which kind of sounds like middle. So if there's 80, my median is going to be the 40th number. Okay? The first 7 numbers are in here. The next 13 are in here. If I do 13 plus 7, I'm going to get 20. If I do 20 plus 14, I'm going to get 34. So that means from the 20th to the 34th number is in here. That means the 40th number has to be in this category, which also happens to be the 40 has 40 in it. So if you had read it wrong and just written that, you still would have been okay. And now we've got to draw a frequency polygon. Don't confuse this with a cumulative frequency graph. This is the easy one. So a frequency polygon is we take our frequency and we take our midpoint. So we take the number exactly in the middle. Now the midpoint of these is really easy. If it wasn't easy, the way to find the midpoint is to add up the 2 numbers on the edge and then divide by 2. But in this case, we can see they're going to be 15, 25, 35, 45, 55 and 65. Okay, so now we're going to plot it. We're going to plot 15 and 7. We're just going to draw a little cross. So 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Okay, we're going to do 25 and 13. Okay, I'm not going to draw all of them, but just so I can give you an idea, you're obviously going to draw it a lot more accurately than I would. 35 and 14. So you'll end up drawing these crosses. Now the important things, don't join them up with a curve. Don't join up to 0. Those are mistakes students make. Just join up your crosses with straight lines. So when you see a frequency polygon, you're going to end up joining up crosses with straight lines. Okay. Sean has drawn a time series graph. Right. Now, say you get to this in the exam. You're doing a foundation paper. You've never heard of a time series graph. You didn't get round to doing some of the other stuff. It doesn't matter, right? Think logically. Time series, something to do with time. We've got different years. It could mean different parts of the year. Okay. Write 2 things that are wrong. Now, if you just look at this graph, it looks, I don't know, exactly what I just said about the previous one. You join crosses up, generally, unless it's a cumulative frequency graph, or like a squared graph, which is a smiley face or sad face, with straight lines. So, that's the first thing that's wrong. The points should be joined by straight lines, not curved lines. Look at your axes. You go in your head, do my axes make sense? Well, they kind of, They don't start at 0, the vertical axes. They've missed 9.5 out. There's more than 2 things you could say. Okay? It's not very clear. So that's what could be misleading about the graph. Okay, got 2 more questions. So the diagram shows a hexagon. So hexagon. A hexagon is something with 6 sides and 1 line of symmetry. In this case, it's not a regular hexagon. Okay. We want to find the angle AFE. So it means I start at A, then I go to F, then I go to E. It's the one in the middle. So the angle that I'm trying to find is this one over here. Okay. What do I know? So if I have a look at it, I know that angle BCD is 2 times the angle CDE. Okay, so CDE. All right, don't know what that is. I'm going to call it X. It's all symmetrical, so I know that's going to be X. I know that BCD is 2 times it. So I'm going to call that 2X. Again, everything's symmetrical, so I'm going to fill in with my X's what I have there. Now, if I want to work out, and I know how many sides a shape has, there's a formula you can use to find out what the sum is. What you do is you take the number of sides, which is 6, you minus 2. Now, you always minus 2, and you times by 180. So we'll get 4 times 180, which gives us 720. So we know the angles inside the hexagon add up to 720. Now, if you were to draw it, you would see that that's because you can split this into 4 triangles. Each triangle is 180. So you go blank in an exam, you think, how many triangles can I get? Right, we're going to add up everything. X plus 2x plus 117 plus 117 plus 2x plus x, and we know that all of that has to be 720. So altogether I've got 1x plus 2x, so 3x, 4, 5, 6x, 117 plus 117, which gives me 294 equals 720. And if I'm not mistaken, have you got an equals button on this calculator? No, we're not going to use that one. Okay, you can actually then minus 294 from both sides. And remember, you've got a calculator, so you can plug this into your calculator. 294. So we get 426 equals 6x. Divide by 6 to get rid of the 6. And divide by 6, and you get 71. So your answer is 71. So that's a little trickier. But the important thing is, if you've got a hexagon, you can find the internal sum of the angles, which gives you 720. They tell you there's a line of symmetry, so you can mirror the angles on both sides. Okay. This is the last question, which was, I think, this is quite a tricky question, but there's a few formulas that you need to know to be able to do it. Right, the area of a circle. So area of a circle is pi times r squared. And if for whatever reason that doesn't stick in your head, then I don't know, there's a really annoying song on YouTube. If you search in area of circle song, you'll never forget it. It's really irritating, but it might make it stick. Okay, and the circumference of a circle, so that's all the way around the edge, is pi d, or 2 pi r. Right, now what does r and d mean? They mean your radius, which is from the center to the edge, or the diameter, which is double the radius, and 2 the whole way across. So now if we have a look at our diagram, we're given the diameter of that top circle. So we know the diameter is 1.6. And before I even start doing anything, I would divide it by 2 to get 0.8, so I don't accidentally put the diameter in if I'm calculating anything. Okay, let's read the question now. Jeremy has to cover 3 tanks. I'm going to underline the 3 as I'm reading my question so I don't forget there's 3. Each tank is a cylinder with a top and a bottom. The tank has a diameter of 1.6 and a height of 1.8. He's got 7 tins of paint. Each tin of paint covers 5 meters cubed. Has he got enough? So what we want to find out is we want to find out the area of the top, the area of the bottom, which are 2 circles, and the circumference. So all the way around the edge, but copied down for the height. So you've got your circumference copied all the way down, so you end up with sort of the tube shape. So area for circle, pi times 0.8 squared plus, and I'm putting a bracket around it, pi d, so 1.6 times pi times the height, because we want the whole thing. Now remember, how many circles do we have? We've got the top and the bottom. So we've got 2 circles. It's easier to think about it on the paper before you start typing numbers in. The more things you type in one big go, the more likely you are to make a mistake. Now this is for 1 cylinder. We're going to end up multiplying it by 3. But let's do this bit of the calculation first and leave it in our calculator. So we've got 2 lots of, so I could just put 2 times if that's easier, but I'm going to put it in a bracket. So 2 times shift pi times shift pi times 0.8 squared. Okay, I'm going to close the bracket. I'm going to add to that my circumference, which was pi d, so 1.6 times pi, oh, I've done something weird, shift pi, times the height, which is 1.8, and I'm going to hit equals, and I end up with 105 over 25. So you can press this SD button if you want, and you've got 13.069 dot dot dot, but I'm leaving it in my calculator. That's just 1. I'm going to times it by 3. When I times it by 3, 069 times 3, I get 39.207 something something something. Right, so that tells me the amount of space I need to paint. Right, how much paint do I have? I've got 7 tins, each covering 5. Now hopefully you can do that in your head. 7 5s of 35, so he's not going to have enough. Right, so let's write it all out so we get all 5 marks. 7 times 5 equals 35 meters cubed, squared even. So we're going to say 35 is less than 39. Write your conclusion. Jeremy does not have enough paint. Right, well done those of you that have actually stayed for the entire time. Apologies, I just talked through it. I know I talked through it quite fast. Fingers crossed this has worked and it should be saved on YouTube. I'm hoping to do 1 or 2 of these each day, and I'll try complete a full set, 1H, 2H, 3H, from Edexcel and AQA, offer higher and foundation papers. And so if that's useful for you at all, let me know. Yes, exam